camera, and then we'll start. Okay, hello, and welcome to the Parks and Recreation Commission special meeting for April 8th, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Let's have a roll call.
Commissioner Begor?
Yes.
Commissioner Tombe?
Yes.
Commissioner Kumarapan?
Yes.
Vice Chair Shu?
Yes.
Chair Stanek?
Here. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes, but given the short time frame from our last meeting, it's nice to see you all again so soon. We do not have minutes tonight. We will bring those back to the next meeting, and we can review those at that time. We have no postponements, and the next item would be oral communications. So this portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the commission on any matter that is not on the agenda. So let me see if we have anyone who would like to raise their hand to speak during oral communications. Okay, not at this time. Move on to written communications. Did we receive any written communications?
We did receive one item, one written communication for item 2, which the commission should have received and will be published following the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to new business. Item number 1, the proposed fiscal year 2021-22 capital improvement projects.
Good evening, Joanne McGreeny, Director of Parks and Recreation. Nice to see all of you again. I would like to introduce our brand new CIP manager, Susan Michael, as well as Alex, Alex Corvallis is our rec coordinator at the Senior Center, who's been helping out with our strategic plan information. And so they are going to provide you the presentation this evening and cover kind of 2 items in one. So take it away, Susan.
Let me attempt to share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see that now. Here we go. Good. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chair Stanek and commissioners. Thanks for having me. We've been working very hard to compile our list of new projects for fiscal year 2021 and 2022, which is next year starting in July. And we've been working on this list of projects. We've been working very closely with Parks and Rec staff and going through what we've learned to date to develop the list that we'll be sharing with you tonight. And we wanted to let you know that we're in the middle of the process. Our next big step will be to present to the City Council on May 4th in a special study session. So we're still working on that. Having said that, we wanted to get our proposal in its current state, which still needs some work on the details, in front of you to get your feedback. So for tonight, we're going to include a list of the new projects, and we're also going to briefly illustrate a list of projects that are ongoing from previous years and still active, as well as some of the projects that were completed in this fiscal year. So I'll start off the presentation going through those list of projects, and then Alex is going to end the presentation with some specific detail. So first we'll go through the list of existing and completed projects. So some of the accomplishments that we've had in the current fiscal year include the acquisition of the Lawrence Mitty property that will form a park, the completion of Linda Vista Trail, and I wanted to have a little full disclosure here. This isn't completed as we speak today, but by the time the fiscal year ends, this project and the next project will be completed. Linda Vista Trail is under construction, and it's in very good shape to be completed in May. The McClellan Ranch Reserve Community Garden is scheduled to be completed in April, and we're hoping to have a grand opening in May. So there's some final things that are happening right now out there, but it's looking good. The McClellan West parking lot improvements were completed, I think a couple months ago, and that's been turned over. And the sports center seismic retrofit is completed. The contractor completed their work, and there's a few ongoing facilities projects that are finishing up this month and next. So I know that staff updates you on this list of ongoing CIP Parks and Recreation projects. So I'm not going to go into any detail here. There's 2 pages of this page and the next page of projects. But if you do have any questions about ongoing projects, I will be happy to take those. You can also take those at the end. So let's go into the new projects. There's just a few. So our first one is the Blackberry Farms pool improvements. We have a proposed budget of $650,000 presently. And the big aspect of this is to replaster the pools. The aquatic facilities are important assets in Cupertino. These pools are overdue to be replastered, and the facility requires improvements to the infrastructure. It's important to note that the guidelines for commercial pool maintenance recommend that a pool be fully replastered every 10 to 15 years, depending upon the condition of the surface. The replastering of these pools was last performed in 2009, just to give you a little context. For the last 2 years, the 2 pools have displayed all the signs that are indicative of the need to replaster a pool, including mineral stains, peeling of the surface, rough surface area. This is a source of ongoing issues for staff and patrons as they come across the rough spots especially. So while replastering is the most obvious need, there are also code required improvements that are needed for the drainage system and to improve accessibility to the building. There's some minor improvements we hope to address at a staff level, like lane rope attachments. So CIP, Parks and Recreation, and Facilities are all working well together on those smaller scopes of work. This is for the larger scope. And the next one, there are 3 projects at Memorial Park. The first one is the amphitheater repairs and upgrades. So as you know, the amphitheater is home to the annual Shakespeare in the Park, summer concert series, and cinema at sundown events. It's well used and it needs improvements. In 2018, a design was developed that included rerouting the paths around the amphitheater, a new shaded stage, and other improvements. The 2018 scope was estimated at $520,000. So this proposed budget includes some cost escalation for the time that's passed, as well as we've added some scope to the restrooms to bring those up to current codes. So the next project is something that's near and dear to so many people, is to renovate the ponds. Right now, as you know, that the existing concrete liner is in poor condition with numerous cracks that resulted previously in significant water loss. So due to this condition and drought restrictions, the city drained the ponds in 2013, and they haven't refilled them since. Reconstruction of the ponds is not cost effective, and empty ponds pose a potential safety hazard. So this project would remove the ponds, infill with the soil as a stopgap measure, and prepare the site for future development as identified in the Parks and Recreation System Master Plan and design studies that were completed in 2018 for Memorial Park. So just for reference as well, designs completed in 2017 were estimated at 2.3 million. That was 4 years ago, prorated to be approximately 3.4 million now, then lowered again as we're anticipating fewer design elements in what we're going to do at this point. The strategy, including phasing, design, documentation. So sorry, that we're trying to get as much as we can done this year with the strategy and the design and documentation by fall, and then implement the project as soon as we can afterwards. We're hoping to complete construction within this fiscal year. And that's why we're also trying to keep it as simple as possible. But the overreaching goal is to make a safe environment. And the specific plan design for Memorial Park. So as you know, the master plan laid out a number of design elements that would be in the immediate short-term category for the Memorial Park. And some of those elements include repurposing the inactive pond, renovating the amphitheater, of course, adding walking path improvements, playable water feature, enhancing the tree canopy, integrating natural features, and enhancing indoor and outdoor event and gathering spaces. So this proposed project would include the development of a conceptual design for phase 1, incorporating the findings from the master plan process and building upon the considerable input gained from the community to date. So if we go back to what was done before in 2018, the scope was proposed for $350,000 for design and $2.5 million for construction. So this is just for the design aspect of that. And our next project that we're proposing is a tree inventory of the Stevens Creek corridor. We realize that tree inventory has not been done for some portions of the Stevens Creek corridor since 1995, and other portions have never been inventoried. So some of our largest and oldest trees are along Stevens Creek. The majority of the trees along the creek banks, including large numbers of very large native trees, have not been systematically mapped, identified, or logged in the GIS system. This is quite important to our riparian greenbelt and the well-being of the creek ecosystem. To support the stewardship and appropriate management, the trees in the Stevens Creek corridor should be inventoried and mapped. So this goes along with the number one goal in the Parks and Recreation System Master Plan, which was to protect nature, trees, natural areas in the parks and throughout the city to support wildlife, ecological functions, and a stronger connection to Cupertino's natural environment. So we're proposing to inventory trees in that area, and includes the Stevens Creek corridor that goes through Blackberry Farms Golf Course. And the last new project that we're proposing is a full-sized outdoor basketball court. So presently there is no full-size basketball court owned by the city. The Parks and Recreation System Master Plan recommends developing 1 or 2 basketball courts as a short-term goal, full-size being the priority. In a community-wide survey for the master plan, basketball was the top recreation activity for teen respondents, plus 18 years, and was in the top 3 for respondents younger than 30, excluding walking. But I think at this point, Alex is going to give us some more information on the planning that's gone behind the basketball court project.
Yes, definitely. If you wouldn't mind moving to the next slide. So there were a handful of parks identified in the master plan for possible implementation of a full-size or large basketball court. Those were Creekside, Hoover, Jollyman, Monte Vista Recreation Center, Somerset Park, and Wilson Park. Of these, the only park noted in the master plan for short-term implementation of a full-size basketball court was Wilson Park. Those other 5 parks listed were noted for longer-term implementation. And if you wouldn't mind moving the slide one more time. So this chart shows you ratings from Parks and Recreation staff, Public Works staff, and Parks and Recreation commissioners for a basketball court completed as part of the Park Amenity Strategic Plan process, which I know you are all very familiar with now. The highlighted rows you see there are the 4 parks that received the highest ratings. Wilson and Hoover are tied for the highest, and Somerset and Memorial are tied for second highest, though I will say Memorial was not called out in the master plan for the addition of a basketball court. So ideally, due to its high rating and its recommendation from the master plan, its position on the eastern side of the city, Wilson would hopefully be a good place to explore adding this full-sized basketball court.
And that's our presentation.
Thank you very much. That looks like there's a lot of things there. Do we have any questions from the commission? Commissioner Gopal.
Great, thank you. Yeah. I have many questions. Maybe go quickly and on it. Number one, on the pond renovations, and it said, I know it says 2.5 million. And first of all, it says pond renovation, but what I heard is that it's not a renovation, it's a removal and refilling. Is that right? It's not.
It is right, yeah. The reason it's so expensive, it sounds, it's got a hefty price tag. It's 61,000 square feet of pond. It's quite large footprint, and we'll have to do it in phases in order to work with the amenities that are on site right now. And we need to demolish the existing concrete that's there, as well as cap off piping and whatnot. So to take that out, as well as fill in something back in, it's going to be an arduous process just because it's got such a large footprint. I don't know, Joanne, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think that was great.
Yeah, I think that's all. So I think that answers question number one. The second question on that is, I think, Susan, you mentioned that it has the design elements and documentation, a lot of things to be done. And I was wondering what design they need to do if you're just going to fill it in, if you're going to demolish and fill it in. What is the design elements and documentation involved in this filling of the...
For just the ponds, that part of the project?
Yes.
So we will have to have a plan for the demolition as well as the phasing, so that we make sure that we've got the temporary fences in place. And we want to know what we're getting into because it is concrete. So we'll need to have a plan in order to hire a contractor to go out there to do it. We're going to have some kind of drawings as well as a survey. So there's just legal requirements for the documentation. I think when you start to look at the footprint of the ponds, we want to make sure that when we put something back, we're not creating accessibility issues or tripping hazards or anything like that. So we do need to have a certified landscape architect look at it, do drawings, and document the plan.
Okay. The other question I have, the next question I have is that on the specific plan design, it says 500K, $500,000 on it. And it says just a design and what I heard is that no implementation, right? It's just a design alone cost 500K.
Yes, that is an initial budget that we're throwing at it. It's not that we've gotten specific input from designers at this point, but we believe that's a reasonable fee to budget at. We're still doing a little bit of finessing with that, but it's just the design of it. It's not the construction of it yet. In this fiscal year, we think that's what's reasonable to accomplish.
Okay, I have more comments, but I'll wait for the comment section. And the next question I have is tree inventory. You put 65K, and is that going to be done by external contractor? I thought as part of the park and rec, I'm sure that as maintenance, we will go and look at the trees and count. Is it a separate activity which we typically do on a yearly basis, and that's why we are doing it, spending 65K on taking an inventory of the trees?
This is what's planned to be an outside contractor that we would hire to do this inventory, similar to we just recently did a tree inventory, and this is where I am very new, so I don't know all the details of what came before me, but I believe it was Stevens Creek corridor. Sorry, not Stevens Creek corridor. What was it? It was for Regnart Creek Trail, I think it was, that a similar inventory was done. But we talked to staff, and it was agreed that the best use and the most efficient use of funds would be to have an outside firm come and inventory it. And there was something else in there that I was going to comment on.
Okay, again, we may will go into the discussion later and talk about it. I just wanted to understand if Park and Rec is trying to do it, the staff, or the external contractor, but it looks like you answered it. The last question in my first round is the full-sized outdoor basketball court. I think maybe Alex can help and answer. And I think I see the longer term and the short term. So can you help? What is that short term and then long term? That means it's only one court. I think
Right.
But I'm trying to understand what is the short term, what is the long term mean here.
So those are actual those are terms used in the master plan. So we had 3 categorizations of recommendations throughout the master plan, and those were immediate, short term, and longer term. And so obviously short term is sooner than the longer term, and which is why we pointed it out regarding Wilson. Wilson was the only park identified for short-term implementation. So in speediest implementation is another way to say it. The kind of a combination of what the need is, what the wants of the community were, so on and so forth.
Wilson Park has the least impediments to getting something implemented quickly.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Tombe.
Awesome. So I just have a couple of questions. The first is with regard to the pond renovations. Do you have a rough estimate of what the annual cost was for maintenance, chemicals, cost of water, amount of water that was filled in? I'm just curious to understand kind of what the long-term fiscal impact has been to our city over the course of decades while we've had that thing. Do we have that information? I know it's been closed off for a while.
Yeah, it would have been back in previous to 2013. So I definitely would have to get back to you on what that was at the time. Yeah.
And then the only 2 other questions I had were for the new amphitheater design. Are we working with any of the groups that our partner groups that utilize that space in terms of design for how we're planning on building it?
We haven't discussed the detail of that yet, but I don't see why we wouldn't, frankly. Yeah. Okay,
great. And then the last question is in terms of excuse me, actually, it's a comment. So you're good. Thank you. Thanks, Susan.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Shu, Vice Chair Shu.
I have some questions regarding those Memorial Park projects. The first one is about the amphitheater. So does that mean after the repair, the whole theater still looks similar as a current thing, but only with a shade on top of the stage?
We aren't proposing to change the overall footprint of the amphitheater. The seating actually would remain unchanged because I believe, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong, there was some work done to the seating already. But the stage area is the biggest concern. The shading is needed for the stage, as well as the electrical needs to be improved. And having the path go traverse the right in front of the stage between where people are sitting, that has been a big sore point for the performances. So we want to try to address that and move that path.
Okay, Thank you. And another question is about the short-term plan of the pond renovation. I heard you said maybe the short-term strategy may come out in fall. So that means in this fall, we can know after we demolish the pond what the short-term plan is. Does that overlap with the specific plan design, or they are complete separate thing?
That's a good question. I don't think we would start demolition until we had drawings and documentation of what we would be doing. So that would take precedent. So first, in my mind, and you know, and this is, I'm an architect, so I do drawings and then we build it. That's how we do things. And that's how I would think that this would happen as well, is that we would need to have a plan because we're going to need to mobilize forces. So I think we need to draw it, strategize about how that's going to be scheduled using that documentation, and then start the demolition. But we wouldn't want to start demolition until we knew what our plan was. So I believe that the strategizing and documentation would happen up until the fall, and then we would try to start construction before the end of the calendar year, depending on what we can get done.
Actually, I asked a similar question several times in our commission meeting about the short-term plan for the pond renovation. I want to get some rough idea of that. But in previous meeting, I remember the city staff said only after the city council approved the budget, you can start to design. But now it seems city council approved it. So yeah, we just want to get some rough idea.
Sorry, this is our list of proposed projects. And I know that city council is quite keen to move forward with something at the pond, but presently nothing is approved. So we aren't taking action until we have that approval, because it's also a significant budget. We're hoping that the council will support this proposal. That's why we're coming to you as well, because we would I think there's a lot of momentum to do something with the ponds. So yeah.
And I saw in the specific plan design, you mentioned maybe think about the playable water feature and some enhancing some tree and integrating natural features. But I think these things, they may have an overlap with the pond renovation. So I still get confused why they are in different category. So what's the pond renovation budget include specifically? So
we're trying to take a certain strategy by having 3 projects rather than 1. So in the master plan, it addressed phase one work for Memorial Park included the pond, the amphitheater, and the other changes that were mentioned in the specific plan design proposal. We know that there is a great deal of momentum and interest in doing the pond, at least having some kind of work done to the pond. So we wanted to separate that out and make its own project. As well, similarly with the amphitheater. So the specific plan design is where it all started, and we're taking out the work to the ponds. What we're also trying to do with the ponds, in some ways, is put forward a very simple, stripped down scope of work that includes taking out the concrete and the piping and putting in something that isn't a designed park feature. So what the specific plan design covers is that if there is some easy or say desired development to that area that we've just filled with dirt and perhaps turf, but we don't know, the specific design is a way that we can put a little bit more thought into that area. Does that make sense? So the pond is a quick and dirty, let's get something done, serve the public safety, and then the design phase would be, let's give it a little bit more thought and do what's right for the overall vision and use of the park. Does that help?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
No question.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tombe, your hand was up and down, and now it's down. Are you good for now? She's good. Okay. Thank you for all your questions. You asked the questions that were on my list. So let's move to public comment and see if there is any public comment for this item. If you have a comment, please raise your hand. Okay, there is no public comment for this item. So let's bring it back to the commission for comment and discussion. Anybody have any? Commissioner Kamarapan.
Yep, thank you. So first thing is that all these are all, I assume that these are all estimates from the city, correct? None of them are vetted through or any other bids or anything. It's just an estimate based on the prior experience or the project cost. Is that right?
That is accurate. Yes.
Okay. And some of them definitely looks, for me, like just an initial comment is that some of them looks really, really high on areas. For example, specific plan design. Like personally, for my input is that 500K for just a plan design on how the park, where the road map should be, where the path, whatever. Just for a design, 500K seems to be really high on that part. When I relatively even compare with the Blackberry farm pool renovation, that's a huge project kind of. When I say 650K, and just for that's including the work. Whereas a design, it says 500K, and that's those kind of things. Again, a pond renovation, it's amphitheater repairs. I thought it's a repair. Then I thought it's 750K, and if there's no structure, there's no layout changes. Only the concrete is going to be replaced or whatever. Again, that is like close to like 750 is close to $1 million, which is I feel like, oh my God, if it's going to cost that much. So I'm just trying to get an idea of how we come up with this estimates because it seems to be, for me personally, it seems to be really high.
Yeah, I'm happy to actually address some of the specifics that we use to come up with some of those prices if you'd like.
But yeah, this is just my generic question, a comment in general.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought, oh my God, this is going to take that much just to design 500 off $1 million. Yeah. And this one, I was like, maybe I'm relating to what typically we do at work and other areas where it doesn't cost. Kind of city may be completely different. At least I want to get educated what costs are and where we need to do it. Is it a requirement, mandatory legal requirement, or whatever it is, government requirement? And I would like to understand that, because otherwise it feels like too high.
I completely understand your point. I've been doing construction industry projects for 30 years, and the cost of things is crazy high these days. Construction costs presently are through the roof. And just so these prices aren't based, the process we've gone through to date right now, I've not had an opportunity to go and get professional cost estimator to come in and give us numbers. So we still have a little time before I have to get in front of the council, and we're going to be working on honing our numbers a little bit. But I can give you a little bit of background on some of the things that I think might help you see where we're coming from and why we think these are actually good numbers. For example, the Blackberry farm pools, that is proposed budget at $650,000. That's coming from, we initially hired a consultant to do the drawings to get the work done, because it was replastering, but there's also a number of drains that need to be fixed and more infrastructure, systematic things that need to be addressed. And we thought it was going to cost, this is before my time, the original estimates were $250,000. It came in at $460,000. And that put a stop to the project and stymied our abilities to move forward. So since then, we've also had added scope come in from the building department requires that we upgrade the facilities to be more accessible. and the county sanitary department is requiring that we do work to the drains. And so that is giving us the reason to go up even higher from the 450,000 to 650,000. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. That's just one indication. And I think in some other cases, for example, the basketball court is at 350,000. A recent, very recent, similar project was completed in a neighboring city that was 250,000. So by the time that we get around to completing this, plus we're trying to allow for CEQA, we have to do environmental reports as well. We added some money to what they spent on theirs just because we're going to need to have that to complete the project. So I would say in all cases, even though the numbers aren't completed, we have a very good basis for our starting points. Yeah.
Okay. I still maybe I'll let the other commissioners talk, but I think that's my reaction to it, because we're building. Just to put a quick reference, then I'll get off on this subject. If I see that if a new house is being built, again, I'm just putting a very simple example. If I just construct a house which how typically cost in this area, they say 500K, 600 or 700K. An entire house is being built for 700, 500K beautifully. And I'm looking at the repair of the amphitheater, and if it needs 750K, I couldn't comprehend. That's all. That's me as a person without knowing it. So why would it cost just a repair of that concrete floor? Would that cost close to $1 million, right? Kind of it comes into it, because 750K, then it'll run over on top of it, and then it'll come to close. Absolutely, I cannot comprehend. That's my reaction to it the moment I saw the number. So I will stop there, but I think that's my initial concern and reaction to this. But I'll let the other commissioner have discussions and stuff. So I'll stop here now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Begor?
Yeah, I've been clicking on and off because it looks like some commissioner is mentioning what I have in mind. But the very similar to the concern that Gopal had mentioned. Do we have? I mean, I know this is an estimate in all of these cases, and things could be very different. However, whether it's the Blackberry farm or the amphitheater or the pond, we're not doing a change in design, right? We're not doing something that changes the shape of the pool or, the areas where we're going to dig through concrete, we're going to fix some pipes, we're going to fix some drains. Do we have a breakdown that gives you an understanding of what you expect would be the cost in each of these cases? When you came up with that number of 650, how did it add up? I mean, what part was plastering for example, the pool? What part was plastering versus what part of it was the drains? Because, I mean, that's, of course, based on the fact that the design, my understanding is the design or the shape of that pool is not changing. Is that correct? Is that a correct assumption to start with, first of all?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, so given that we're not trying to, upend the pool and put a new one in, we are replastering. Pardon my, again, like Gopal, it's just I have done remodeling of my home and I've done remodeling of pools. So the estimates are almost degrees of, multiples of what I had expected a pool to require. So do you have a breakdown of what this estimate is going towards? Like a third of it is going to replastering, or what is it? It's a lot of money for, I mean, even if you say a third, it's still a lot of money just for replastering a pool.
Yes, we do have the estimates, the budget breakdowns that we received. I think it was the end of 2019, when we received the $460,000 estimate of the pool work, for example. So we could send that to you as well. I don't have it handy, so I'll have to go back
Okay.
and pull it up for you. But I will just reiterate, we were all surprised at the cost of pool maintenance. It's crazy expensive. The work that we're trying to do now, just to do some spot repairs in order to open the facility for this summer's season, has also been exquisitely expensive. It seems that pool contractors are a special breed. So it's been a struggle, and we are trying to wrestle our expectations against the reality of the construction industry presently.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that, prices have gone up suddenly over the pandemic. But I mean, in fact, my neighbor has found that their costs have now doubled between one side of the house and the other side of the house. So I can see some of that. But my question comes back to, like, if the estimate was 460 based on end of 2019, given that we're not really changing the shape of the pool, I mean, in his case, he's completely changing his house, so he's got a new construction altogether. But given we're just doing repairs, why does the estimate go up from, say, 500,000 to 650? What is that additional that you expect where does that delta come in from?
So one of the major scopes of work that the county health department, sanitary department is requiring is that we connect the drains properly to the sewer system. Right now they're incorrectly connected, piped, and that's going to require some major work to the decks. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that the building department, upon reviewing the permit application, required that we upgrade the facility to be accessible. The scope of work right now, it has just like one little thing that would address accessibility on the pool deck, but it didn't address just the bathrooms on the inside of the building, nor the path from the parking lot to the front door. So those are two major areas of work that will need to be added to the previous scopes.
Okay, then there's a follow-on question to that. So if the 150 is supposed to account for the two additional things that have been added, what do you see as the percentage for accessibility versus fixing the problem? Do we have an understanding of that?
Sorry, I don't understand.
So there's
the
two
question.
pieces. There's two things that you're fixing, right? There is one where you said the sewer has to be connected properly. It's obviously going to a wrong place or something like that. How much of that cost? How much of the 150 is that cost versus fixing the accessibility problem?
That I don't know. We really haven't gotten into the details. So that's one thing that I'm trying to work with the current pool consultants to get a better sense of detail on the pricing.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking these questions is if it turns out that, I know we've done some estimates and we've added something just to have a budget of 650. Let's just say the city approves 650. Now, nobody who's ever done a construction project, and I'm sure with your 30 years of experience, you've seen that if we have a budget of 650, by the time we're finished with it, it will never be 650. It will always be more. So what happens then? I mean, is that 650 number sufficient? Does it have some built-in stuff?
We're definitely trying to make the number. We need to make the number to carry the entire project and its contingency. So typically we'll have a project budget plus a 10% contingency. And we're hoping that the 650 in this case covers that. We're definitely trying to, we're starting with an actual bid process that we've already gone through in this case of pool, deal with hard, real numbers wherever we can and still put enough in the fund to make sure that we can accomplish the project. Because frankly, when the pool project was put forward before, it did have, it was a facilities project. It had a special project budget but there wasn't enough budget to complete the project. And so the project has now waited 2 more years because of that inadequacy. So we're definitely going to need to make sure that our budgets are sufficient to cover these what ifs that might come up, to your point. Yeah.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, there will be we will be looking at, you'll go to the city council asking for 650 plus a contingency budget,
No.
or that 650 includes the.
That includes the 10%, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I think,
Didn't
Commissioner
mean to
Begor,
sound-
you're not seeing is a lot of what they've built up. They didn't just pick a number out of the air. They have an
Obviously.
entire process that they go through where they identify all of the tasks, and they have a requirement to put a contingency in it. And the number that was presented was a total number. And they need to be careful too that, like she said, you don't want the bids to come in way over, because then you don't get a project done at all because it's not in your budget. So they have a very tough task to balance these things. And I think one of the things that's coming out is that I'm sure the council will be asking very specific questions, and it sounds like you are in the process of getting more detail that will be presented to the council. And so that's, it's, we didn't get to see that tonight, but I know they have a rigorous process to get there.
I was just going to conclude that, maybe if we had seen the detail, then half of these questions would not have been, there, because I've never seen a construction project meet its proposed budget. So that's just where I'm coming from.
Okay, Vice Chair
That's all
Hsu?
I had.
I have some question also regarding the pool. So as I remember, our council voted to I remember they voted and decided to never bring the pool back. So in our past survey, bring back the pool was never an option. But today and I also heard because the pump problem and because of the concrete problem, fixing the pool and bring it back may be costly. But today, when I see the budget for demolish the pool, so I'm wondering.
Sorry, Commissioner Hsu, you mean the pond, right? Not the pool?
The pump. Oh, sorry, the pump. Sorry. But today, after review the budget for the demolish fee, I'm wondering, is it possible to maybe keep some part of the pond? Because I remember there are 3 big parts of the pond. Would that be save some money, because some residents, they really want to see it back. Just wonder if it could be an option.
I would say that the most efficient direction at this point would be proceed with repurposing the pond areas right now to be something other than concrete, to be infilled, so that we can move on with the use of the park. Having the the specific plan for Memorial Park, having that design as one of our projects, and also noting that the public does have a great affinity for water features. Hopefully, possibly, that would be one of the features that would end up in the final design. But in the short term, I believe the best course of action would be to clear out the existing ponds, because the amount of repair that will be required for those ponds is going to be equal to a complete reconstruction of those ponds at this point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Commissioner Gopal, you have one more comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And thanks, Susan, for, I think I'm listening into all of them. So maybe my question now is that And also comment, is there a specific issues? For example, the pond one, I understand there are issues. For example, amphitheater, is there any security issues or anything which we got complaints or from the people? Or why are we doing this repairing and what is the priority of it? Do we have a reason why we want to do these projects? And a few of them are, I understand, some of them are accessibility issues in the pool and we need to plaster it, will leak, all of them. But at least, just for example, for amphitheater, just I take that as an example. Is there any safety concerns or durability issues where other reasons and why and what priority it is? The reason behind this question is if city approves only a specific budget, and I'm sure that they will say what priority you are asking for, and that's all the limit. Then if they stop it, then I'm trying to understand how important this is. Is there any priority? Maybe I haven't seen that one. If it is there, it'll be great if you could, or you or Dr. Joanne can point to me on why we're taking these repair works or any of those.
Sure, I'll try and pipe in. I would say that the ponds at Memorial Park are long overdue for replacement and repair. And I know that through the master plan process, a lot of things got put on hold until that process was finalized. And so what staff have really taken to heart and from much of your guidance as a commission is to review that document and try and implement the things that were suggested and put forth in the short and long-term goals through the master plan. So since one of the focuses is to, remove the ponds and move forward, we thought as working with Public Works, the best plan of attack for most efficient way to get this done is to do 3 simultaneous projects because it was basically delineated in that format in the master plan. So that's what we're trying to carry out as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, thank you. Pond, I'm very clearly understood. I think I read it too. It resonates well. That's all. I'm just, for example, I used that amphitheater, the concrete, whatever the floor repair work, whatever. I'm trying to see. Similarly, is it maybe if it is addressed in the master plan?
It is.
Maybe,
it is.
And it is as an immediate because
It
of
is.
cues people already posted. Maybe I have to go and read it. Maybe my
Yes.
memory is lost. So
The
I will go and read
appendices.
it. Is it? I will go and read it. But that's what I think the priority-wise where it stands. And because if budget become a constraint, given all the pandemic things, I'm sure that there will be some constraints thrown at us. And the city council has to make a decision. And I want to know where in the priority list this will come into play. That's all.
So if you go back to Appendix F, that is very, I've had to review it many times now, but it is very specific as to how to address the challenges and the implementation of those goals through the short and long term. And so that's the exact tool we're using to follow. None of these are bright ideas.
But yeah, looks like you already, I thought you used to say that, Director Joanne, I joined only 3 months, 4 months kind of. Now you don't have an excuse. It looks like you just completely thoroughly memorized Appendix F, E, A, Z, and I can point the numbers. So awesome. Thank you. I'll go and refer to it. That's all, Mike.
Okay.
Commissioner Tombe?
I had a couple of just quick feedback points just to make notes of in terms of the Memorial Park design. I just want to be sure that we are doing we have a cultural element involved. So it doesn't just, it's not like our standard park. So it'd be great to bring some kind of cultural element, be that a Zen walking path or making sure that we're also including the Fine Arts Commission into the very core of the design, because arts can be in pathways and things like that too. So just making Memorial Park a little less basic and a little bit more reflective of Cupertino's cool diversity. I am so excited to hear about the pond work. I love the 3 phases. It makes perfect sense. At my family home, we had a pool. We had to close it down, so I'm very familiar with what is required. It's not just bulldozing something and putting something in its place. There's many elements. There's a lot of legal around how to close off pipes. A big part of that is making sure that there are no sinkholes. You have to wait for a certain period of time. Actually, I think it's 6 months, and then they do a soil check, and then they come back to see if you can even build on it. So there are a lot of elements. I am beyond thrilled to see this like moving forward. It's so exciting. So thank you for putting this on the CIP plan. I think it's just fantastic. I do want to just really, I'm mindful of the cost, but I also know that, you know, our responsibility as commissioners is to make sure we're creating like innovation and new things happening in our parks. And I think this is a really great step towards that. So very excited. It's, you know, I don't really have the hubris I'm not in the, you know, I'm not in your industry. I don't have y'all's level of experience. And as a person who works in tech, I don't really think I have the ability to decide like this line item of concrete is too expensive. I know the infrastructure problems across the country, and I think it's because, you know, I don't have that skill set, so I don't want to sit here and say, yes, this line item is approved. But thank you very much for doing this. I think the various CIP projects make a ton of sense, and I'm so excited. I'm so stoked. I can't even begin. This is going to be really, really great for Cupertino and for Memorial Park, and also to hear that there's going to be like electrical upgrades to the amphitheater, which has been a major issue for years. That's really, really great. I'm excited to see these things coming to fruition, and looking forward to working with you, Susan, also more.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So one of my comments was, I guess the first slide on Memorial Park, the one that references the ponds, the title of it is Renovations, and I think that gives a context of we're going to fix them. I mean, that's what comes in my brain. So I was just, some of the other words that we've been talking about are removal and repurposing, and I'm just wondering if it could just be presented so that it's very clear up front that the ponds are going away, and we're preparing that area for the next thing that we don't know what it is yet. That's just something that I thought might help in the presentation, and hopefully the questions that the commissioners have asked will help you in your preparation for council, because I know they're pretty tough, and especially on the budget things. And I think as lay people, we do get sticker shock from all of this, and our community members get sticker shock as well. And so the more detail that can be presented, it is helpful to us. I'd like to get back to, I think you wanted maybe some more direction or feedback from the commission on our priority for the full-size basketball court. Is that right, Director?
Yes, and I just would like to reiterate, we've had many staff discussions about what we will name that pond project. So your feedback and input is very helpful. Nonetheless, yes, just wanted to see, I mean, I think that there's consensus that moving forward with the full-size outdoor basketball court implementation at Wilson is what everybody agrees on. But if you'd like to have further discussion on that, let us know.
Yeah, I guess I would like to hear from the commissioners, because we didn't focus on that much. So let's see, Commissioner Komarapan.
Yeah, sorry, like I raised hand just before we switch to the basketball one, but maybe let me add that comment. So again, all my questions, Susan, I again, after Commissioner Tampe said, I just want to make sure that the reason why I came with those questions, all of them, is not to really question your ability to do this one. I just want to make sure that as coming outside of this industry, exactly as we do a different budgets, and that's what I was looking at it. So exactly, I don't know, but I want to make sure that these questions, and we put it there, it will have more documents or pointers, right, to help, because that's what I think Commission is here for, right? So I want to make sure that we put those questions, and then you get to know, oh, okay, what happens if the council comes? What happens if somebody asks these questions before you go to the next level? I hope that's the intent behind it. I just want to make it very clear. All these questions are not to question your ability or any other mod staff. My intent is to see that, oh, that's how I look at it first. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I would like to be proven wrong all the time. So I like to make sure that that's the rationale behind all the questions. But But now, yeah, I need to go and do some more homework. Appendix F. Now I noted down, so I need to go and read it. But that's all. So again, thanks for all the work and putting it together. I just want to make it clear that that's the rationale behind it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tombe? You're still on mute.
Yeah, there we go. So with regards to the basketball courts, it was one of the top things on the list. So I would at least want to put it forward to the city council. If the city council is like, hey, you know what, there's a lot of Parks and Rec projects, CIP projects going on, we don't have the budget for this, then that's, I'm more than happy for them to make that decision. But I would like them to have the opportunity, just seeing as how many people in that thick old master plan document were asking for this. I think that would be great. And to see it on the east side would be fantastic. I think it needs that, so it'd be nice to see that. But those are my 2 cents around the basketball court.
Yeah. I mean, given the big dollars associated with some of these other projects, the basketball court is some of the smaller things, and it would be so well received. And I think if we can get it high on the list, hopefully we can move forward with something there. Are there any other comments on that?
I just wanted to also add, not to throw more salt in the wound, but as far as cities go, there are a couple additional things that they require, and one of which is insurance, which can be costly, which drives up prices somewhat for construction, as well as prevailing wage is required as well for most projects. So those are some of the things that come into play for cities that aren't necessarily what you see in the normal market. So just keep that in mind as well.
Okay, is there anything else you need from us on that item?
I
Great.
think we're good. And thank you so much, Susan and Alex, for your time and being here for this special meeting. We appreciate it.
Okay, then let's move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is the updated athletic field use policy.
Yes, so we have several staff here this evening to support this item. But I believe that Karen Levy is, who is our recreation coordinator, is going to be providing the presentation this evening.
Yes, hello, good evening. Like Joanne said, my name is Karen, and thank you for having me this evening. And I am here to talk about our updated athletic field use policy. So just a little background review. The current policy that we have was approved by City Council in October of 2004 and went into effect that following January. So no updates have been made to the policy since then, and that includes the fees. A study of the current athletic field use policy became a city work program item in fiscal year 1920, with the objective of assessing the current field use policy, including reviewing scheduling, the fee schedule, cost recovery, and Sunday reservation feasibility. Also, our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which was adopted in 2020, indicates the need to evaluate and implement changes to field scheduling and to increase capacity and usage. So part of the city work plan recommended robust community outreach, and we started that this February. We had a dedicated webpage. We sent a postcard announcing the survey as well as the community meeting to every resident in Cupertino. We had numerous social media posts. We had an online survey. We held a community meeting on March 9th. And throughout this process, actually beginning last year, I've had several meetings with youth sports organizations that use our fields, asking for feedback about Sunday use, field closures, and changes in fees. So this chart, you might remember, we showed this to you when Jenny Coverman talked about fields back in December. So this is the result from one of those conversations I had with all the groups about their interest in Sunday use. So you can see there's a variety of responses, but all the groups were interested in some additional Sunday field use. So let's look at the community survey. It was available online from February 17th through March 21st. We had a really good response. We had 979 respondents. 581 were residents. 397 said that they had a household member playing youth sports on Cupertino fields. And 415 lived next to one of our 15 field sites. So now I'm going to take you through the questions. So the first one was, currently, youth sports groups are the primary users of city-managed fields and have requested additional Sunday field use for general practice and games. Would you support allowing sports groups to use fields on Sundays for these purposes? So you can see that residents, as well as those who live by fields, primarily said no, whereas those who had family members involved in sports groups overwhelmingly chose yes. Next question was, if Sunday use is expanded to allow general practice and games, please rank the following options in order of preference. So the three options were 4 additional Sundays a year, 8 additional Sundays a year, or all Sundays provided that no fields are scheduled for 2 Sundays in a row. So the top choice for residents as well as those who live by fields was 4 Sundays, and for sports groups was all Sundays. Next, we asked if sports groups are allowed to use fields on Sundays for general practice and games, which time frame would you prefer this use to be allowed? So you can see that those who had a family member in sports groups chose the all day 10 to 5 p.m. option, whereas residents and those who live by fields selected 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And our final question was, an annual field closure is being proposed to rest fields and conduct maintenance. Fields would be closed to sports groups and the public during this closure and would most likely take place during December and/or January. Which would you prefer? And you can see in this one question, everyone agreed that the 1-month closure was preferred. So additional Sunday field use is one of the things that we're proposing that might be slightly different in our updated field use policy. So I'd like to talk about that first. A review of neighboring cities, including Campbell, Los Altos Hills, Mountain View, Palo Alto, San Jose, Santa Clara, Saratoga, and Sunnyvale, found that they all allow permitted field use on all Sundays, no restrictions. Our current policy allows 2 special Sunday permits per year for each organization that they can use to hold a tournament or a special event. They cannot use these days for regularly scheduled league play. We also allow Sunday play for groups serving individuals with disabilities. These limitations on Sunday field use allow Sundays to be used to rest the fields and allow residents to use fields freely. Youth sports groups have advocated for expanding Sunday use at prior city council meetings. Expanding use would let them schedule games, make-up games, and practices. It would also allow groups who do not hold tournaments to hold games on Sundays. So we are proposing 2 options. One is no change to the current policy, no expansion. And 2 is allow each group to reserve fields on 4 Sundays a year from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. With either option, we are recommending that groups still are allowed to host their 2 tournaments a year. And for those, there would be, we would keep the times the same, the 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the tournaments. The next thing that's different in the policy is the fee structure. All the cities reviewed use an hourly fee structure, and we would like to better align with neighboring cities and are recommending that Cupertino shift from the current per player fee structure to an hourly fee structure. This would not only improve cost recovery, but also encourage field reservations to be made more efficiently. Currently, it costs approximately $1.8 million to maintain and operate fields. Our per player fee structure that we have right now, we get about 7% cost recovery. Based on current group usage during a non-pandemic year, revenue with a recommended 25% cost recovery hourly fee structure is estimated to be about $368,000. The 40% cost recovery fee structure is estimated to result in approximately $647,000. So you can see in this chart here, in the first column, we have the average cost in neighboring cities. And then we have the 25% cost recovery, which is what we're recommending. And then the last column is 40%. So I'm just going to go through the 25% for our first two priority groups, which is Cupertino programs, as well as nonprofit organizations serving individuals with disabilities. There's no charge. For resident nonprofit youth organizations, it would be $20 an hour per field. Non-resident nonprofit youth organizations would be $30 per hour per field. And then resident adult or resident for-profit youth organizations would be $50, and non-resident adult and non-resident for-profit youth organizations would be $60. So back in fiscal year 18-19, we asked the groups to estimate about how many hours they were using fields. Like I said, right now they pay per player. So this was just kind of giving us a look at, based on those estimates, how much they would be paying under the new fee structure. So you can see that for most groups, there would be an increase, which is why we're recommending starting off at the lower rate of $20 and $30 an hour. And then finally, as you saw in the survey, we were looking at doing a regularly scheduled annual field closure period. Other cities in our area like Campbell, Los Altos Hills, Mountain View, Palo Alto, Saratoga, and Sunnyvale all have winter field closures. They vary between 2 and 3.5 months. San Jose and Santa Clara do not have them at this time. We found, though, that our need for an annual rest period would really depend on how heavily fields are used under the new hourly rental structure. So due to the feedback from the survey, we recommend that fields only be closed as needed to avoid unnecessary closures. So any planned field closures would be posted on the city website, and we would notify sports groups far in advance. So before I go into any questions, we are recommending that you approve, or sorry, we are recommending that you recommend that council approve the updated field use policy. And we would really like input on expanded Sunday use, what hours you would like to see that use, if any, and then fees, as well as the field closure.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the commissioners?
Through the chair.
Yes.
Sorry, I just also wanted to introduce Jenny Koberman, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, is a supervisor with the Parks and Recreation Department, as well as Katie Nomura, who is assistant to the city manager, who is here and has been working on this item and will be helping field any questions that come up.
Okay, so just so our public attendees understand, we'll be doing questions from the commissioners, and then we will open it up for public comment and take your questions. So just be patient and we will get to you. Commissioner Tombe.
I have a couple of follow-up questions. So I noticed in the table, it had outlined the redo of how many makeup sessions that teams want. That's different than their annual, correct, use of the field?
Right, yeah, that was just when I talked to groups about what they might want for Sunday use. Some of them said, oh, maybe if there's a rain out, we would use Sunday. So again, like you saw, the use was kind of all over the place. We had some groups that wanted to use every single Sunday, some that only wanted to use it if there was rainouts, and a lot of them were kind of in the middle with like 3 to 6 to 7.
And also that last column about which
Got it.
use
Then,
tournaments
the
on Sundays, that is based on current usage though, since they are allowed to do tournaments on Sundays.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. And then the second question I had was around just in terms of do you know with our neighboring cities what the size is of the organizations that use their facilities that are outside Cupertino, like or outside of their city, how much they would be charged? I don't know if my question is making sense.
Oh, you mean for non-resident groups?
Yeah, for non-resident groups, because like Cupertino, like Cricket, for example, it looks like theirs would go up to like 15,000. So I was just wondering for neighboring communities, is that like the same tier, or like are those really big organizations that use the space? I'm just trying to figure out how that balance works in terms of other cities.
Well, most other cities, like we're recommending, have priority use based on, it's not necessarily the numbers, it's just based on resident, non-resident, different cities have different regulations, but the average cost for our neighboring cities for resident groups is $30 an hour. So, we're going lower than that. And then for non-resident is 78, primarily because Santa Clara charges $276 per hour for non-resident groups, which is probably why none of them use Santa Clara. But so we definitely wanted to start, on the lower end, and again, something to that I want you to know is that, we started this process a while ago, and, with the pandemic and everything, it's taken a little bit longer to get here, but we did talk to the groups last February, and the resident fee that we proposed, or we talked to them about at that time, was $20 an hour. So they have been, aware of that it could be coming for over a year. And when I talked to them about it, that was kind of their concern, that they just wanted to have time to figure out, how to balance the new costs. So.
And I just wanted to share that this table, I don't know if my screen is properly sharing, is included in your packet, is one of the attachments if you wanted to see what the other cities charge these groups.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Begor.
Hey, I really had one specific question, because it looks like Nisha asked the other question with regard to the cities. So in the option 2 that you mentioned, you say allow each group to reserve 4 fields on 4 Sundays a year from 10 to 2. But I don't know if I misunderstood what you were saying. So would that'll be 4 Sundays and not the 4 plus the 2 they already get, right?
What we're hoping is that they would still get their 2 tournament Sundays if they wanted to use them, and then this would be on top of that.
Okay, because the option, I didn't read that. It says allow each group to reserve 4 field Sundays. So that's on top of the 2 that we have.
Yeah, our hope is
I think the policy lays that out. It may be that the slide doesn't have that detail.
Yeah,
so,
it was at the bottom, but yeah, sorry.
Okay.
But yeah,
and
go
ahead. You were saying something.
No, I was just going to say, we have 15 sites. We have 27 fields. So, there is, and right now we have 9 regular user groups. So, even if they used, all the additional 4 Sundays, there would still be plenty of free field space available.
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Kumarapan?
Oh, yes, thank you. Thanks, Karen. I think this is a lot of statistics, a lot of data analysis, a lot of surveys and stuff. So great. At least some of you love data, whether we like it or not. So it's great. It comes up nicely. Couple of questions on it. Number one, again, just to latch on to the recent question from both the commissioners or on the Sundays. So current usage, you also answered part of my question, which I'm about to ask, is that if it is right now, it's 2 tournament days and 2 Sundays are allowed. That means they can, at the maximum, they can use 4 Sundays. Is that right?
Sorry, no, it's just.
From my understanding, today's
It's
currently what
only,
do they have? The field use.
It's only 2 tournaments per year. There's no additional gameplay right now. It's only the 2 tournament days.
Okay.
At unlimited sites. So, I mean, a group could have, a tournament at like 6 sites or something.
Okay. And we are going from that to 2 plus 4 now. Is that right? If there is only 2 tournaments, now we are giving them 4 Sundays in addition to those tournaments. That means 6 now. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, right. So that's the answer to my question. The other one is that I saw the data. You talked about residents and you say the people lives by fields, right? 2 bar charts. When I say residents, what does that mean? Is it like anyone and anywhere? Doesn't mean like not live by fields. So they identify themselves in that. Maybe I didn't take the survey, so I'm trying to find out how they identified that they are resident.
Yeah, no problem.
And also live by fields. Both.
The first question that we actually had was a check all that apply. So that's why those numbers don't necessarily add up to the 979. So people could check resident. That was one of the choices. Non-resident, live by a field, have somebody in a sports group, or they could check. So like some people checked 3 different boxes. Some people just checked 1. But so for the, to get the number of residents, I took everybody that had checked resident, whether that was the only thing they checked or they checked 2 things. And then we do have 1 field that Hyde is right by the border of San Jose. So there were a small amount of people that checked live by field, but did not select resident or said they were a non-resident, but that actually lines up with, where that park is. It is right by San Jose, so.
Okay, great, because I was trying to see whether I should sum up both when I compared to the sports bar. People who love it always up, and I say, should I sum up? Then it always goes to the peak. So I'm always trying to find out how do I, because otherwise people will not be happy. So that's one. And the other one, you talked about a hourly fee structure of which will 25%, whatever in the middle bucket on it. How does that work? When I say hourly, will monitoring, or they will tell you the hours, or how does that work?
Well, so when they do their permit, they would ask for specific fields and specific hours. And then it would almost be like renting, our plan is to put it into active. So it would just be similar to somebody coming and renting like the Quinlan, at Quinlan, the Cupertino room, right? Where they would say, I'd like this room from 6 to 10. And we're like, okay, that's going to cost, X amount of dollars. And then because this is an ongoing thing, and the season is usually, 5 to 6 months, my plan is to invoice them halfway through and then at the end. And that way, if there's any rainouts or anything like that, we can, factor that in before their last payment.
Okay, so this maybe it's indoor is okay, but outdoor it could be a honor system. They will say I'll use it for 4 hours or 3 hours. The game.
Yeah, but they do have to ask for it beforehand. And I think we're planning to do some spot checks. And we do have code enforcement that helps us on the weekends, in the mornings, with checking fields as well. And just like right now, we're still going to get road groups that are out there. They're all over the place right now, using our fields without permits, but, we just try to do the best that we can. But, these groups have been with us for the most part a long time. And I trust that they're not gonna, maybe
Sure.
they're there for like 5 extra minutes, but yeah, they're gonna ask for what they're gonna be using, so.
Can I just also provide a little bit of clarification on this? Just from the way that we issue permits now, it will create an efficiency because we will be able to post the schedule so that the public knows who's using the field during those times. So it'll be easier to report if there is a group that's using a field out of the scheduled time.
Got it. Thank you. I have some comments, but I'll reserve it for later. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I just had a couple questions and maybe some clarification. So when we say Sunday, and I think it's in the policy, but I just wanted to be sure. Right now, if they have tournaments, they may be using all of the fields on a particular site, right? And the policy, when it's talking about if we do open it up for Sundays, for 4 Sundays, it is one field on a Sunday and they could take it for maybe 2 or 4 hours maximum, the way it's written right now.
Correct.
Okay, so it's very specific to that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
as an example, I'm sorry, Karen. So as an example, if you wanted all the fields at Creekside Park, there's 3 fields. You've just used 3 of your 4 in one day, and you now have 1 left. Right.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies that. Are there any other questions before we go to public comment from the commissioners? Okay. Let's go to public comment. And I see a couple of hands that have come up. Our first speaker will be Michael Gong. Michael? We can't hear you. Oh, there you are. You're coming on. We don't hear you yet.
Maybe sometime we had it, they have to unmute again, not just on this one, on the phone too. We had earlier the similar problem, so.
Right. I don't see him on mute right now. So Michael, why don't I'm going to put you back to mute and we'll take another question and we'll come back to you. Hopefully we can get your question in. Oh, so yeah. So the other person is Amy Jasper.
Hey, hello, can you hear me? This is Amy.
Yes, we can, thank you.
Okay, thanks. I don't know, the video control room has a mute symbol on it, so I don't know if that's Michael's problem. Anyway, I am representing Cupertino Little League. I am also representing the Challenger program at Cupertino Little League, which is for players with disabilities. So I want to understand, they straddle both sides. They include us players with handicaps, and they also have regular players. So if our handicap group is with them at an event like opening day and we play a game, will they be charged because we're there and the regular quote unquote player there? Oh, do I only have 3 minutes?
Yes. So you've got about 2 minutes left.
Okay. So did you understand my question?
That's probably going to staff, and they're shaking their head yes. So go ahead and ask any other questions or comments that you have.
Okay. So are the proposed fees for Sundays only field use, or is it for all the days of the weeks that we want to use the field?
Okay. Do you have any other questions or comments? And then we'll let the staff address those.
1 field or 3 fields?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is Wilson Park considered 1 field or 3 fields? And also, I think you have to clarify Sunday use. It's still not clear to us. And how are the hours tracked? Especially if there's cancellations. And does a group like Skyhawk Sports Camp, are they going to be charged this $20 rate, or are they free because it's a city event? And let's see. Did anyone complain about the increase in costs? We're going from 4K to over 30K. That's usually Little League's budget is around 30K. So I'm surprised no one complained. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for staying within your time. Joanne and Karen, do you want us to take all the questions and public comment and then bring it back, or do you want to address any of these questions now?
We can, if it's okay, we can answer the questions. I'll try to remember all of them. So let's start from the back. Skyhawks is a contractor with the city. So they wouldn't be charged for field use because they have a contract to teach, and a certain percentage of that already goes to the city. Little League Challenger is one of our groups that works with individuals with disabilities. Like she said, they already have allowance to use fields on Sundays. So any permits that they ask for, they would not be charged. When it comes to a game, I don't know if she was talking about a game, between two teams, a challenger team and another team. We would probably look at that on a case-by-case basis. That hasn't come up in the past, so we would just have to talk about it. Then the hourly fee rate is for all field use. And like I mentioned, we did talk to the groups about the fee raise, potential increase in fees last February and March, when we had a meeting with groups about the policy at that time. And then I met with some groups individually as well. And, we sent out the policy to them for them to see it. It is an increase, but again, we haven't changed fees since 2004. So, potentially we would be closer to what we're proposing now if we had been raising them every year. Did I hit everything?
Wilson Park, how many fields?
Oh, Wilson Park is 3 fields.
And then how are Sundays tracked? I mean, Sunday use, how are the hours tracked? Sorry.
Yes, so like everything else, it would just, again, it's people would be requesting a certain amount of hours. And then like Joanne mentioned, our goal is to make sure that the schedule is available for residents to see online. And we're also hoping maybe to put signs out at the fields with a QR code. So if somebody goes by and they see there's a group out there, they can scan it and that will take them to the schedule and they can look and see if that's a permitted group out there. And then they can call code if they need to report it, and or our department, and we can look into it.
Okay, let's go and see if we can get Michael Gong to be able to speak in public comment. Michael? I don't see a crossed off microphone, but we're not hearing you.
I'm wondering if he may have called in with the phone, and if that is the case and you'd like to raise your hand, you can use *9 to raise your hand.
I see him with a name. Oh, maybe that is a caller 2145. Okay, I'm going to allow caller 2145 to speak. And if that's not Michael Gong, then we'll try to come back to Michael Gong and
Hi, this is Michael Gong. Can you hear me
excellent.
Now? Okay, great. The technology right now is not working the greatest, but I guess everybody can hear me. So some of the questions were already answered by Amy because Amy's part of our group as well too. I'm also part of the baseball league. I just wanted to clarify if the numbers that were actually being brought up for 40% recovery and also 25% recovery, if those numbers are going to be coming in drastically lower than expected, what is the city going to do, I guess, potentially from a thought process? That's one question. The other question would be basically, was it considered that some organizations will have much larger member sizes based on, like, for example, some locations having one soccer field that can be divided into 2 or 3 different sections versus baseball, like Wilson, that has 3 fields, but will have to be charged 3 times the rate with a much smaller group of people. So I think that's the basic 2 things that weren't answered.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Staff,
those
do you want
those 2
to?
questions. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So we're not going to be dividing up the soccer fields either. So like Jenny mentioned earlier, Creekside has 3 fields. I mean, they're big. They could be, divided into half fields. And I know Palo Alto does that with some of their turf fields, but that isn't our plan. So, we're not going to be, charging a group, $10 for half the field for that. And then with regards to the cost recovery piece, again, that was just an estimate based on, past usage, but we're not going to raise fees. If we do adopt the 25% cost recovery, if we only get half of what we're predicting, we're not going to turn around and double the fees the next year.
I'm not sure if that answered your question, Michael, about the cost recovery. If it's up to, it will be council's decision, what fees they decide we should charge and what our cost recovery should be and how much the city would subsidize the fields like they subsidize some of our other general fund programs.
Yeah, I think a big factor is the comparison to the other cities. And when you look at the per hour comparison, that may be more relevant than the actual cost recovery as council looks at it. That's just a guess on my part, but from my own perspective, that seems important. So let me bring it back to, I see Michael's got his hand up again. He did have some time left. So I'm going to go ahead and allow Michael another minute or so.
Okay, actually the first question was based on the cost recovery, if the estimates, like you said, were unrealistic or something, because it seems like they were unrealistic in terms of whoever had entered them in may have actually generated something a little bit higher than expected. So if the expectation was just, if that's the expectation, then if it's never going to be reached, then I don't know what the city would actually feel about that. So I think that was partially answered in general, because baseball also it does a lot of things like fixes the field, fixes other things around the fields and stuff like that. So we don't just, walk on the grass and then leave the grass kind of thing. We do all the maintenance as well too, along with the city. The second question, just to add a little bit more detail, was just the consideration that you have smaller groups using separate baseball fields that are, like at Wilson would be 3, but you'd have one giant soccer team that would be using one giant field that could be separated into 3, so their cost is lower in general. That's the consideration I was trying to figure out if the city was taking into account. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So I'm going to bring it back to the commission now, and with comments, discussion, and let me look and see who got their hand up first. Commissioner Tombe.
Hi, so unfortunately I was one of the reasons we needed to have the meeting slightly earlier, so I will need to step out. now. But I did, which sucks because this is what I wanted to talk about. But I think that in terms of decreasing the amount of months to do the like rehab makes total sense. There's a lot more demand, so shortening that time frame. I'm more than comfortable with the 4 Sundays makeup per organization. And then in terms of the cost, I understand that we need to change it. It's been a couple decades since we've done that, and I was like, oh wow, I was 10. But I think that is important, and it was good to know, Karen, that you had already spoken to these groups a year ago, so they've kind of had a little bit of a, hey, this is coming down the pipeline. I am nervous about the drastic difference between what they're paying now and what they're going to need to pay, even with the reduced. I think it makes most sense to go with the reduced as an incremental change, as is recommended. But I guess that would still be my hesitation. So if there is any way that we can do, a phased approach, or there can be some kind of support involved there, I think that would be great. But definitely erring on the side of the not complete push all the way to the top, but the minor thing is the 20%. So it still seems like a very sharp contrast. But again, I don't sports too much. so this is just from the numerical data. However, looking at, I think it was C, which was the contrast between other cities, we got some ways to go. So that was good to see, was the contrast. And then the final thing was just another flag for the cricket team and how that specific field is managed. They don't have anywhere else to practice. It's not like softball or baseball or soccer that has lots of fields around Cupertino. So just making sure that there is a little bit more, I don't know if the back end of the system can do this, but a little bit more moderation on that field specifically. I remember 3 years ago, they had actually come to us saying that rain and then people walking on top of the pitch actually made it really unusable to throw the ball on the ground. And if there's even a divot, it means that it goes in a different direction. It's like somebody on a pitcher's mound pitching from an inverted mound. So if there's any kind of management that can be done specifically for a really, really sensitive area, that would be great. But with that, I do need to take off. That's my feedback, and I will watch the recording afterwards. But thank you very much for putting this presentation together. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kumarapan.
Yeah, thank you. So a couple of things, maybe, Karen, I think we already touched on that. So since the cost has been reduced, especially for $78, if I remember, from average, and you said 200 plus in somewhere. So think about all of those, and we charge 30. That means the influx of the groups coming and trying to use is going to increase, because anybody, if it's a it's outside of Cupertino city, so that means Cupertino. That means those lot many people will say it's attractive, it's a beautiful city, beautiful fields, a lot many people will come, right? So my concern on that part is that if it's going to increase, I'm not saying that we should increase the rate. No, 30 is great. I think it's good. It invites. At the same time, when we give 4 Sundays other than the 2, and then if the influx increases even 50%, then I think you said, if I remember, 27 currently groups use it. If it goes to 50, even if we outside, I do not know what it is, even close to 50, and then they use 4 Sundays and then 2 tournaments, kind of, it is going to be, all fields are going to be occupied all the time. And the reason I bring it up is the residents plus the lives by fields, whatever, even if I take, they're all in the same bucket, they're very close to saying no, right? In many areas, very close. How are we going to satisfy them to use their family time or some just to go there? Because always fields will be used by all the time, because it's 4 plus 2. If I say 6 kind of a Sunday, and then even whatever the permutation combination you put in, it is going to be overwhelmingly occupied by other sports groups in general. And the people who said that no, they want to use for family will have a very limited. So why do we have 4 suddenly from none to 4 Sundays? Is there a rationale behind it? I want to respect the people who really want to use for family timing too. While I support the sports group, we are going to have a lot many people coming into Cupertino, given that the rate is too low. It's awesome, well-maintained fields, awesome place. Sure, right? I'm worried about that part. We will not be satisfying the residents or people who said that no, I want to use it for my purpose, whatever. That's one of the biggest thing I see it as. The rest are all, I'm not worried about it, whatever. But that's a part. How do you plan to handle it?
So we currently have 9 groups. So the 27 was how many fields that we have. So
okay.
9 regular groups. And, you know, priority wise, resident groups do have priority. And then with regards to Sundays, you know, we were planning to not ever book the same field 2 consecutive Sundays. So that way, you know, there wouldn't be scheduled use every single Sunday in a certain park. So like if you live by Jollyman or something, you know, and maybe somebody was using it the first Sunday, then we wouldn't schedule it the next Sunday. Somebody, you know, even if somebody asked for that Sunday, we would ask them to pick another Sunday. So there would still be open time for the residents. You know, even though it seems like we have a lot of sites, our fields are pretty impacted already. So I don't know that we would get a lot of new groups coming in, you know, especially, you know, our fees right now compared to everybody else with our per player fee are very low, and we haven't had a large influx of new groups. We do have people asking occasionally, but, you know, and we have been able to add, I've only been overseeing fields the last 2 years, and I was able to add 1 new group, the Golden Triangle Soccer. But it is challenging because, you know, we don't have a lot of empty field space during the week already.
Okay, okay, just a quick follow-up comment, and I can stop there, is given this pandemic is getting kind of, at least for schools are opening, and the people are getting out, and there will be a real strong desire to use this, right? To get out and be. This is 1 year, right? Locked up. That energy and synergy is going to come out, right? So that means many people will come. So this is going to be a challenging for at least first year. It is going to throw all the projection what we put in. How many groups? It may be right now 9. You may get even 90. I don't know, right? So those many groups will come because they really wanted to come out. And that's what I said, when you open up such a big way, like 4 Sundays, all of them, it is going to be really, and even family want to come out and to breathe and just to go around. And I want to make sure that we go in a slow pace than just extremely going on the other, is what my concern is, how we are going to cater. And if that is a problem, and how we are going to stop and we're going to change this, after city council approves all of them, I see that's coming, and that's what my kind of little bit worrisome on that opening of 4 Sundays, and then coming up with. So let me stop with that comment for now. Maybe I'll think about it later, but I'll let the others. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, sure, Director.
I just wanted to also point out, even though all of the sports groups currently have the ability to host tournaments on Sundays, a lot of them do not. So a lot of them don't even use the Sundays that are available to them now. And some of the groups are not even interested in using Sundays. So I just take that into consideration as well in the conversation, just as good feedback. The other item that I just kind of wanted to point out, although staff has done an amazing job trying to put together comparing an apple to an orange, the pricing is vastly different. So we really have no idea what it will look like. These are projections and our best guesstimates, but that's really all that they are. And so ultimately, we don't know what it will play out and look like. These are just, again, what the groups have told us that they will likely use.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Shu.
And thanks for our city staff to provide the summary of the survey with all the details. And I see, yeah, so will just make the process transparent. And I agree with Gopal's comments. Because we see the survey result, what the residents voted actually has a huge difference comparing to the sports groups. So maybe makes a change gradually, in slow pace, that may be better for the first year. And I have another comments on the time frame on Sunday. Currently, in the survey results, it shows 48% people support 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 42% support 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So it looks like more people support the longer time frame. But because if you look at the result of the residents, actually they prefer a shorter time frame. I'm just wondering, maybe can we just limit the time of the sports group to use fields in late afternoon? So that means we can open the time frame to from 10 to 5 p.m., but we limit the use, so that's just make sure residents can have more chance to use the field in the afternoon. It looks like they don't interested in the morning time. So most people, their big concern is the afternoon on Sunday. Okay.
Yeah, I think they want it to be available for them to be able to go in the afternoon, which is why we were recommending the morning. Based on the survey, it looks like people that live by fields as well as residents would prefer, if there was going to be additional use, it would just be in the morning. And I think that's because they want to be able to go in the afternoon. So that way, if we're just doing a half day, then they have the afternoon to be out there. And that's, also why we didn't want to start too early in the morning either, so that, no one's out there making noise at like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Kumarapan.
Yeah, just maybe I forgot to ask this one. So these the ask is for two things, I believe, or like one is for the 4 days extension, the other one is going on the hourly based. Is that, or I'm trying to find out, is there only one ask or both two ask recommendation from us?
Yeah, we wanted your input on the expanded Sunday use as well as the hourly fee structure. And then if you have any input on the annual field closure, again, with that, we were recommending, not having one in the policy just based on when fields need to be closed. But, we'll welcome any input on that as well if you want to provide it.
Okay, maybe Chair, I think when you really start asking formal input, then we can provide, right? This is just like a comment. Okay, I'll wait.
Okay, yeah. I mean, just to make a comment on the field closure, I think, we have to close it sometimes because of rain. And so if we can not have a formal closure on some other months, that I think the youth groups that are using the fields would appreciate that, to try to keep it open. But we have to maintain the field closures when it's raining hard and the fields are going to get ripped up. So, having a few Sundays available so that they can have makeup games, it doesn't look like what you're proposing would make it available for tournaments, because it's just too short a time in a day and it's just one field. So it looks like really the intent would be for some makeup games, which I think would be very good. And I guess we're going to have to work on, if the field's closed and an organization has paid for that time, then we'll give them credit for some other time. So there's going to be some accounting that's going to have to go on, and make sure that we make the right call on that. I guess that's, I understand having to go to to be competitive with the other cities. I mean, we don't want to continue to be too available, I mean, and so low compared to our neighboring cities, because we have seen more people want to come here. So I think it's important to be in the same ballpark as our neighboring cities. At the same time, I do think this is a shock to our youth sports programs, and maybe phasing it in over a longer time, even if it's not, you know, a 25% recovery, maybe it's a couple years. I was curious though, when you guesstimated how many hours the organizations would use. I mean, is it possible that they may be taking a very sharp pencil and drastically reducing their hours, because we were so flexible before? The groups could say, I want it all afternoon every day of the week, and we said, okay, that, you know, your organization can have that from September to December or whatever. And once they actually look, and that gave them a lot of flexibility to go to their coaches and say, okay, coaches, what day can your team do practices? And then they fill in the times. So I'm thinking that there may have been times that they didn't need all of the allocated time that they were given. So I'm wondering if, you know, maybe they can manage their costs a little bit more that way, because they're going to be forced to really pay attention and not be reserving a whole lot more time than they're going to be using. So I'm just wondering if maybe they can manage their costs, and so they won't see as big an increase. But even so, if we could try to figure out a way to ease that transition, I think that would help. I do see that the survey results are just bimodal. Their residents want as little use at their local parks as possible, and those who use it want as much as possible. And so it's really hard to reconcile those two things, and to just try to have some flexibility, recognize the residents' desires. There were some comments, I think, in the surveys that said we need to have the parks available for our kids to play their games, and don't restrict us from that. And I think the point is that we're not restricting it from our residents. The point is we want non-organized use to be available to them. And so it's nice to have non-structured time that you can go out with your family, and hopefully encourage that as well. I mean, I've seen when I go to parks, people who have their own little volleyball nets, their little mobile volleyball nets that they stick up in the park, either on the softball field or whatever. And they've got a couple of, you know, a group of half a dozen neighbors that come out maybe every day and are playing there, you know, not when it's reserved, but on Sundays or other times. And I think having it not reserved all the time, especially on Sundays, is a nice time for family time when it's not organized sports. So those are some of my comments. If any of the other commissioners would like to chime in. Commissioner Kamarapan.
Yeah, I think if there's a time to just make comment, because we're not taking an approval or something just on a comment, then I will put my comments as well, like Chair. Going back onto the same point, this residents will come out and want to spend time more on it, and it's loud and clear on why they wanted to use it. So we going extreme with a low cost absolutely will invite more. So I definitely see that 4 Sundays are really extreme, and in the sense, when I say extreme, it is difficult to scale down. Once you put 4 Sundays and everyone started booking and all of them, it's very difficult to scale down if the overwhelming response, and then we have to go and manage our own city residents and say, I'm sorry, it's every Sunday is morning 10 to 2 is completely occupied in all fields, right? Even though there is one skip level, I think Karen, you mentioned, it is okay to go from a scale up. That means if I open only 2 Sundays, right? And if it's really overwhelming or whatever, and if we think that, okay, we can go and demands are okay, scaling up is not a problem. But scaling down is going to put us in trouble, because all this sports leagues, everybody, they will plan their overall schedule for an year. And when you run into this problem, when residents come back and complain it, you have no way to stop, because then otherwise you will get a complaint from the other side. Hey, I planned everything for the whole year. Now, how can I scale down? Because I see that's coming kind of. And I want to respect definitely these fields to be, the park should be available for the residents, especially given the pandemic and when they really want to get out. And if you put a lot of restriction on it, it is really going to send a different message to our residents. And again, at the same time, I'm not saying that other outside Cupertino folks should not come. That's not my intent. But I want to respect the residents first. So 4 is definitely seems to be high for me. My comment is that if we could start with 2, I'm perfectly okay with the middle thing. I think the 25%, whatever the user, the hourly based, that's fine. But I don't want people to perceive that as, sometimes I might even perceive that as, oh, that's a cost generation. That's what the city is trying to do. That's why they opened up for 4 Sundays. Then you will have more people to come in. So it is going to generate more money. And it is not for generating more money. That's not the aim. Our goal is to provide that facilities to be available for the residents. And that is the message everybody should get it, right? And this will defeat it. If it is 4, if it is fully occupied, yes, we will generate 250K, whatever the amount it is. Yeah, but not at the cost of people's happiness and liveliness and what they wanted to do. That's the biggest concern I have on it. 4 Sundays from a 2 to 4 going up with the low cost compared to nearby the cities and stuff, absolutely will invite. People will find out, why would I spend just on the border with $78 or $200 on one? $30, just go, doesn't matter. And they will come, right? You are going to see that one. And I don't want the living styles of our city patrons to get impacted, because they have to sacrifice this one. They have to just sit and watch and outside. They cannot even enter into the field. That's my comment.
So through the chair, if I might make a recommendation, we have a slide available for the 3 items that we would love to have feedback on, so that we could have consensus about what the commission recommends, so that we can bring that recommendation to council with this item. So I guess if you could, make a motion on what you recommend for each, so that we can provide that feedback to council, that would be helpful.
Okay, so let's look at the Sunday use. Is there any additional comments, or is there a motion? Commissioner Kumarapan.
If there are no comments, I'd like to make a motion. Maybe I will wait if there is no comments. If you see it, then I will make a motion on that.
You're going to make a motion on just the Sunday use?
I'd like to make a motion on the Sunday use, but the modified option 2. Allow each group to reserve fields on 2 Sundays a year from 10 to 2 p.m.
Okay, do I have a second on that motion? Okay, I didn't hear a second on that motion. Do I have it? Oh, Commissioner Begor, did you second that motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you have any discussion? Any friendly amendments? Just checking. Okay. So would you restate the motion, Commissioner Kumarapan?
Oh, yeah. Option 2 with amendment, allow each group to reserve fields on 2 Sundays a year from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is the motion I'm starting with, because that's where scale up options available if really needed, week to 4. That's why I said, again, motion is to change that 4 Sundays to 2 Sundays. So allow each group to reserve fields on 2 Sundays a year from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay, and we have that seconded.
Just for the record.
Should we take a vote?
Commissioner Begor? Commissioner Kamarapan,
Yes.
Commissioner Tombe,
She
Absent.
left.
Vice Chair Shu,
Yes.
and Chair Stanek.
Yes.
Motion carries with 4 votes yes and Commissioner Tombe absent.
Okay, shall we go to the next item?
We don't see it on it. Would you mind if you
Yeah,
flash
can
it again,
we
please?
see that again? So the first option is a 25% cost recovery and a 40% cost recovery. I guess, so my concern here is the characterizing it as a cost recovery. So I think the dollars that you've identified make more sense, because if you go back to the comment from the public is like, well, if there's fewer hours, are we going to be messing around with our dollars? And I don't think that's the intent. So I guess what I'd like to see is the schedule that says we'd like Schedule A or Schedule B.
So that's the hourly rate, $20 and $30 rate versus the $30,
Yeah.
$50. Okay.
So do I have a motion, or a comment? Commissioner Gopal?
Yeah, I think it was clearly said that it is, you are switching from option of user based by per user to per hour, right? That is the big change here. More than the recovery is the outcome of it. Whether you do 25, 40, whatever it is, I think that's the outcome of the first decision. I think I would take the ask should be from the staff is that we are going moving from individual user base to the hourly base, right? So that is the decision. And if I thought that is the decision we can provide and say, but I'm not sure how this 25% cost and even non-resident $30 is really good or it should increase. I do not know how we are going to make that call. I'm struggling on that part. But the one part which I can make a vote and a support is that, yes, go from user to hourly, that's good to go. But I'm not sure about the 25% and stuff. So that's Chair, that's what I'm struggling on, what to vote for in this one.
I can provide some input and kind of just insight on that question. I think it's, if you feel comfortable providing input to council that, you know, we support going to an hourly fee structure, I think that is helpful. If it's possible, it would be wonderful to hear the commission's recommendation on what that schedule should be. Based on, should it be, you know, $20 an hour, $30 an hour, kind of as you see here. I've heard some comments that perhaps maybe even less than that. That could be a recommendation that the commission makes to the council.
Yeah, maybe I'll just make another comment. Just thank you, Katie, for saying it. But again, personally, I have no idea how this cost can arrive. I don't want to speculate and say is 20 is high, low, or 30 is high. At least from a relatively comparing to what you have on the website.
I can provide a little more. Sorry, I didn't fully understand your question. So the 25% cost recovery and the 40% cost recovery, that's what it comes out to. That was the easiest way we could think of to name them. Like, this is what the outcome is. But ultimately, really what we're asking isn't for you to pick a percentage of cost recovery per se, but do you feel like the $20 an hour per field is reasonable? Do you think that's too high? Do you think we should set something even lower than that? That would be helpful.
Yeah, again, just to respond to it, because this is a very critical one. So instead of 25% recovery, 40% recovery, that is internally how you plant it. If it says option A, option B, option C, it could be 25, 30, 45. It's up to the city, right? So as Chair originally said, that if it is Schedule A, which is 25%, Schedule B, we don't even want to know what is 25%, 40%, because you all know based on the maintenance, what is the minimum you need for in the staff to really maintain the field, whatnot. what is that bad? So that's okay. So that's why I said 2540 sounds a completely different kind of a message. If you just call it as one, and then you can go and adjust whatever, and then if council is comfortable, because I do not know whether this 20 is correct or 25 is the right thing. I have no data to really do it. So I would feel comfortable to call as option A, option B, or whatever. Then I would go and say that, okay, I'm going to support option A because option B seems to be too high, at least with the numbers. Okay, why do you want to charge too much? I can just make that. But the 2540 is confusing me, or it's a cost driven, and I don't want to be a cost driven.
No, that's good feedback. And actually, I think that how we could kind of refocus the conversation is the average price per hour for residents in other cities is $30. And so what we're proposing is 20, which is $10 below what the average is. And so that you have a comparison, because again, we're going from an apple to an orange. So I get what you're saying, Gopal, it makes sense. So maybe we'll just reformat it, and instead of focusing on cost recovery, more focus on the hourly rate.
Yeah. I think looking at the competitive environment is very relevant. And what falls out of it is what kind of recovery you'll be getting.
Can we see the recommendation, the comments you made?
And I'll make a note just for comparison. I think it was on an earlier slide that we estimate our cost recovery right now, like as a normal in our current schedule, is only about 7%. So anything hourly would be an improvement upon that.
So if that is the case, Chair, I'll make a motion again on, I didn't see the option 1, 2, but I'm going to go with the new motion or amended one, is that I recommend to go from user-based to hourly-based with the schedule, or with the option in the middle. I don't know what was option A. I call it as option A now, right?
So we'll say, yeah, $20 and $30 respectively hourly.
Hourly. Does that okay, Chair, or?
Yes. Do I have a second?
Again?
Okay, Commissioner Begor seconds it. Are there any friendly amendments? I'd like to make a friendly amendment to phase it in, not to have a 1-year initial transition, but to phase in, not that you can phase in whether you're using user or hourly, but how much the hourly is to get it to the rate that we want it to be. Does that make any sense?
How long do you want to for
Yeah, when you said
phasing it in?
I didn't, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. More than 1 year. Does anyone else have a comment on that? Commissioner Kumarapan.
Yeah, so I didn't understand, maybe when you say phased out, that means initially use $10 and then go to 20, or is it what you meant when you say phased?
Yes.
I see, okay.
So if I might also add a comment here real quick, just to give some background. When we were considering how we were going to potentially go from 25% cost recovery to 40% cost recovery, and again, talking about the hourly rates, we were considering raising the price each year $1 an hour until we got to that rate. So we could do something of that nature. Again, we were talking about going from the 20 to the 30, but if we want to start lower, or if that is the recommendation to start lower and somehow, get to a higher rate eventually, that could be considered.
Commissioner Begor?
Yeah, I have a follow-up comment. So the current rate is what it is, and we're going to take a year to get to the new rate?
No,
whether that's 20 or 30?
No, I think what we've got is we want to go to an hourly rate. If that's what we vote on. We haven't voted on anything yet. But,
Okay.
and then to what hourly rate we would be going to, there was two proposals there. One for the residents, if we just focus on that one, which is, I believe, $20 to start with, going to $30. Is that right? And so my proposal was that we would not get to $20 initially, that we would start out at something like $10 or $15, and then the next year get to the 20, and then maybe, go up $1 after that. I mean, it doesn't need to be. I don't need to spell it out. The council can figure it out, but do some sort of transition to get there, so it's not an immediate shock as much. Vice Chair Xu.
So I have another concern regarding this. I think more than 1 year may be better because currently in the COVID pandemic, so maybe there are fewer sports group can book the field. So if only 1 year, maybe we won't get the accurate number as normal year. So maybe waiting for more than 1 year, we can get a better idea about how the cost coverage and how much the fee we should charge. Yeah, just my comments.
Okay, Commissioner Begor.
If we say we're going to, the part that you're phasing in is you're suggesting we move to an hourly rate, but what that rate is will not change at this point, but will change to say the $20 in a year when they already heard about the $20 a year ago.
Well, no, I mean, they haven't, we've been talking about going to an hourly rate, and now, the analysis has been done. So an hourly rate would come into effect, say it starts at $10 and goes to $20 in the following year, or, goes to $10, then $15 the following year, $20 the year after that. And at that point, we can see how many hours are actually getting used. The organizations have some time to absorb that with their communities. Commissioner Kumarapan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So maybe if it is clear, if it's okay, I would like to split this into, because one decision is we wanted to, but otherwise when we combine these two, it is confusing. So if I could able to split this into two, one is the one thing is that yes, we recommend to go, or we support staff's ask of moving from user-based to per user to hourly. If you could okay with it, then I would like to make that that motion now, and then we can. I do have some ideas on the other one, some inputs, but I think we can go clearly. If we combine it, it becomes, I don't know, it's fully which one gets approved or whatnot. If it is okay, I'll make a motion that we switch from per user based to hourly based for this
Okay.
stage.
Okay, do I have a second for that?
We couldn't hear.
I second
that.
Okay, excellent. Let's take a vote.
Commissioner Begor, Commissioner Kumarapan,
Yes.
Commissioner Tombe, still absent, Vice Chair Xu,
yes.
and Chair Stanek.
Yes.
Motion carries with 4 votes yes and Commissioner Tombe absent.
Okay. Now let's get to the other piece.
if it is okay, I'll make a motion. Let's see, and we can do a friendly amendment. If how many friends are here, so we can make so many friendly amendments. So let me make a motion of the starting charge, at least for residents, we can start $10 per hour. We can go next year as 15 and then 20. So I'm not changing any other because the outside one is already competitive enough for non-residents. For residents, I would like to start even $10 per hour. And then 1 year, and the next year can be 15 or 20. It up to the city and staff come back and do it. But for now, I'd like to propose that we start at $10 per hour for residents.
Can
Do I have a
comment
second for
on
that? Commissioner Begor.
On it? Yeah. So do we want to actually specify how much, or do we want to say we start with a phased approach and let the city decide whether that should be 10 or 15 or 20 to start with?
Well, I think they will. So we're just making a recommendation.
Yeah, I think maybe, I know I didn't raise my hand, but I just want to respond to that, Chair, if it's okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think the message itself is a phased. Like when I say start with the 10 and go on a phased, that's how it is, because 10, 15, 20. So it carries that message anyway, Commissioner Bahur. So, but I want to give a starting point as beneficial to the residents. So I want to have a good difference between the residents and non-resident. And that's why my motion is to start with the $10 per hour for residents and go on a phased approach of 15, 20, whatever that is, that's decided by the city staff based on their experience in the first year. That's what that my motion is. Start with $10 per hour for residents and go in a phased approach of, it could be 15 or 20, it's up to their discretion based on the data.
Can that?
We have a second. Is there any other discussion? I guess I have one question. So you're saying that the middle column for all other categories, are we addressing that, or are we not addressing that at all? Are we okay? Are you saying that this motion includes those rates for the other non-resident ones?
Yeah, I'm going with the option A, or whatever in the middle column. I call it as option A. Of that, the only change on that one is $10 per hour for residents. And then we can go phased approach of increase for everyone starting next year based on the inputs which staff knows on it. So yes, only the change I'm including is in the option A and the first one, which is for residents.
So just to clarify, that would be, if someone could share the chart just for clarification. So in the middle column where it says 25% cost recovery, that we will never refer to this column again as such. We are doing, if you look on the resident, it says $20 an hour per field, it would be 10, but all the rest would be 30, 50, 60.
Yeah.
So just the resident one would be 10 is the change. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the expectation that it would transition over time.
Correct.
Got it.
So I think we had a second. That was just clarification. Is there any other discussion? Are we ready to vote on that?
I didn't catch who the second was. Do you mind clarifying? Thank you, Commissioner Begor.
Commissioner Begor was the second.
So are you ready for a vote then?
Yes, I think we are.
Okay. Commissioner Begor? Commissioner Kumarpan?
Yes.
Commissioner Tombe? Still absent. Vice Chair Shu?
Yes.
And Chair Stanek?
Yes.
Motion carries with 4 votes yes and Commissioner Tombe absent.
Okay. That was a lot of discussion. I think hopefully you got some good input for the council, and the council will consider our recommendation.
There's one more. There's the fourth.
Oh, that's right. There's the closure, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at that option on the closure. Hopefully I think this is simpler. It's, so the staff recommendation is on the field closure as needed for rest and maintenance. So that is without a predefined closure of 1 or 2 months. Do I have a motion on that?
Yeah, I can go with the motion again. Let's do 3 strikes. So I'll go with exactly as staff asked for. Field closure will be done as needed for rest and maintenance only.
Okay, do I have a second?
In that exactly as it is.
Okay, Commissioner Begora seconds. Are there any comments? Friendly amendments? Let's go for a vote on that.
Commissioner Begor? Commissioner Kumarapan?
Yes.
Commissioner Tombe is absent. Vice Chair Shu
Yes.
and Chair Stanek.
Yes.
Motion carries with 4 votes yes and Commissioner Tombe absent.
And our director would like to address us.
Yes, I know Commissioner Tombe has left, and we were hoping to provide an update about the cricket field scheduling prior to the close of this item. So if Karen wouldn't mind mentioning that would be fantastic.
Yes, of course. Thank you. So yeah, like she had mentioned, cricket only has 1 field to play on. And in previous seasons, they had shared the field with our volleyball group. The volleyball group used the field on Wednesday nights as well as Saturday mornings. And so because taking into account that cricket only has that field to play on, I have moved volleyball to another field. So library fields will only be permitted for youth cricket going forward. So and they were very excited when I told them that to get back that extra time.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Begor?
I have a question. So the volleyballs, the people that play the volleyball, where are they going to go play, or anywhere else other than this?
I'm going to put them at Collins Elementary. So, I mean, they can play, a lot of different places, but right now that's, there's available space at Collins.
I mean, the cricket group is obviously very vocal, but did we have any feedback from the volleyball folks, or?
Oh, no, they've always been fine going to other places. So they were actually, I think they're happy to be at a separate place. So.
Just curious, because we don't want to make one group happy and get the other group.
Yeah, no. I think they're both happy. They've,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Kumarapan?
Yeah, so this is, when you say volleyball, it's only for the planned groups, but for individual recreational ones, the residents nearby come and put their own tent and stuff. That we are not restricting any of them.
No. This is just our permitted group. So.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I may, I just want to make sure that we've had this opportunity. The overarching recommendation we're hoping to get out of this meeting is the recommendation from the commission that council adopt the updated policy with the recommendations that you've individually voted on. Would that be possible? If not, that's completely okay. We will forward on the individual recommendations, but it's helpful to know your support for the overall policy updates.
So can you state that again? I'm not quite sure.
Karen, can you bring up the slide, the first slide of the recommendation?
Yes, I'll hold on.
So I think what I heard you say is you would like the commission, based on our individual recommendations, to make a recommendation to update the athletic field use policy per our recommendations.
Yeah, that council would approve the updated athletic field use policy with your amendments, with your recommendations.
Okay,
Maybe, sorry.
that's okay. Commissioner Gopal.
So is it, that means, I thought this particular slide presentation, this data will be updated with our inputs by anyway before we presenting it to the council, right? I'm trying to see why we need additional, because for example, all those three, now you just ask for us, then you will update saying that this is what commission recommended, and the changes you will make in the middle column. That Joanne will really kill me if I say again option A in the middle of it. So whatever it is that, and then change it to 10, all of them, that's what you're going to be presenting it, correct? Or you will not change anything in this, just present as such to?
No, I think you're overcomplicating it. Katie just wants you to recommend that we update the field policy with the changes that you are recommending. So that we do change the field policy, that we get rid of the 2004 and we go to 2021.
Because as noted in the staff report, we did note there were other kind of simplification updates to language in the policy. We just want to know that you're generally supportive of the policy as it is newly written with your changes.
Commissioner Begor?
Yeah, as long as somehow we state that those 4 recommendations are in there, this is, we can approve the updated field policy, but if those 4 recommendations are not there, updating the field policy is not priority.
I could provide a suggestion. You could recommend that council approve the updated athletic field use policy as amended per your discussion.
Got it. I can go for the motion. If somebody is not taking that privilege, please. I can go for that. Can you put the slide, because I just want to read exactly as it is so that I don't notice missing any of them. If you could, Karen, put the slide back on it, that'll be good. I make a motion to recommend that the council approve the updated athletic field use policy based on the inputs provided today by the commission.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, Vice Chair Shu jumped in there.
Actually, I said I second.
That's very good.
Oh no, I think I said it last time. Maybe you didn't hear me.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
No, I think I said before session.
That's good. We're gonna mix it up here. I think we've had. Is there any discussion? I'll ask. I'll give you the opportunity. Okay, if there's no discussion, we can go for a vote.
Commissioner Begor? Commissioner Kumarapan?
Yes.
Commissioner Tombe is absent. Vice Chair Shu?
Yes.
Chair Stanek?
Yes.
Motion carries with 4 votes yes and Commissioner Tombe absent.
Staff, anything else on this subject?
I just want to let you know we will be bringing this item to council on the 20th of April for their consideration with the master fee schedule.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you to staff. A lot of work.
Thank you, staff.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we will get to item number 3, staff and commission reports. And given that we just met a week ago, maybe this will be a very short item.
We didn't even put together a PowerPoint for tonight. So yes, the only thing that has really changed since we last met, and I'm sure you are all aware, is the latest restrictions being lifted from gatherings and private events, as well as the information that the governor released about the June 15th date. And so what I would just like to let you all know is the city is working through the logistics of managing that. And as soon as we have information, we will provide it. The best location to look for updates is at cupertino.org/recreation. When we are able to accommodate things, we will be updating that webpage so that people are aware of what we're able to accommodate. So even though they say we can, doesn't mean we will. So just give us some time, but we're aware and working through it. So thank you. That's it.
Okay. Do I have any other commission reports? Commissioner Kumarapan. Oh, you're still muted.
Yeah, my wife just came back and said, my puppy is crying. Why are you still in the meeting? So I was just trying to mute and say something. It's okay. This is what happens in the Zoom meetings. One comment I would like to make it is definitely even though we did actively work on this, I think you can hear it. The particular field usage policy, even though we did really discussed on it, but this is very important for our pattern. So you put in a lot of the data and work behind it, a lot of things. So I really appreciate staff to get things ready for the community to come out and use and energize it. So I really appreciate it. I think thanks for taking all our inputs and bouncing back, and it's amazing. So thanks for all your hard work. I just want to thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to congratulate the group doing the mural down at Blackberry Farm. It looks to be completed. That's my background here. You can see that eagle in the corner, that was like the last thing that got painted, and it looks beautiful. It's really amazing. I did take the Cupertino pledge, and today we got our packages, and so I wanted to model for you my mask. Maybe you can hear me, maybe you can't.
We couldn't hear you.
I'd like to thank staff for putting that together. It's a very nice package with the masks, and hopefully the Cupertino residents are continuing to wear their masks, to keep a safe distance, to wash their hands, and to respect each other during this time. And if there are no other updates, future, do we? Vice Chair Shu.
Update.
Okay.
So, my neighbor just let me know, they said they got the second round of the mailer from Rancho Rinconada office. And with they think that's the same flyer, so they just still talk about the price increase even after we question them if there's any evidence to say this. And I also sent email and asking about does this community outreach use the tax dollar? But I haven't got any reply. I said because I'm a taxpayer in this special district, I think this should be a public information, but I haven't got any response. And actually, in the past, when I joined their Zoom meeting, I remember they said the meeting record every time the meeting was recorded, but the only thing is they didn't put the video on their website or on YouTube. So I keep asking them when could they put those meeting and those videos online about their, I mean, not only the community outreach meeting, but the board meeting, but no response yet.
Okay.
So just to clarify for commissioner reports, unless we have this item agendized, we should probably refrain from updating on it, but it will be on the next agenda for the commission, upcoming agenda. So we'll be able to discuss this item. It's just if we have commissioners attend meetings like the mayor's meeting or have brief updates, that is what this item is for. So just moving forward, we'll make sure that they're agendized when we're talking about this item.
Okay. Any upcoming meetings or future agenda setting for our, what do we have? We expect on our May?
Yes.
Meeting?
So for May, we will be bringing you hopefully the Jollyman Park formal update. as well as potentially, these are all still pending, but we are going to consider the feedback from the satellite garden information that you all gave within the strategic plan prioritization, as well as potentially bringing back the community funding policy for feedback and input to an update on that. As well as, I'm missing one thing, Whitney, can you remind me? Community funding, satellite gardens, oh, Rancho Rinconada community outreach.
Golf.
Oh yeah, golf. Thanks, Jenny. The
I'm coming back.
The golf course feasibility study.
Yeah.
Somebody saved you today. Yeah.
So again, just depending on how many items we can get together by then, one might fall off, but that's what we're scheduled to do for May 6th.
Okay. Thank you. And that is the end of our agenda. So I will adjourn the meeting at 8:10. Thank you for attending the special meeting.